So, good morning again. Just wanted to say that I'm very happy to attend this meeting because, especially to be around people who represent Ferrocampus from Nouvelle-Aquitaine or the cluster Totem, because when we make this presentation, it's also important to see who could be part of the next initiatives which will be taken in Europe. So if we go to the next slide, I just wanted to say that UNIFE represents the Rail Supply Industry Association based in Brussels. We, of course, promote European policy. We work on interoperability, and we try to maintain the EU rail supply industry leadership on a worldwide basis. And we also want to help our members to know about what's happening in Brussels and to know how to manage this complicated world in Brussels. If you go to the next slide, you see what are the main priorities, and it has been mentioned during the previous presentation: standardization and harmonization. European rail research will come back on this, but what we can say is that we can be happy because Europe's rail joint undertaking started its activity on the 1st of December, which shows that the Council considered that Shift to Rail was a big success, and you've seen that the money has been spent, that there's been a lot of projects, that a lot of SMEs have been part of the initiative. So that was a very good thing. And we remember with Libor Lockman when he was the CR executive director, it was the first time that the operators, the infrastructure managers, the industry, the clusters were able to work together. So that's very interesting. And then we have also to manage, of course, in an association, public affairs, and to work on IRIS certification, which is the ISO 9001 of the industry. And you know that there are more than 2,000 companies in Europe, in the world, who are IRIS certified. If we go to the next slide, so you have the list of the numbers of our members. You have to know that, of course, we have very close links with the FIF, and I know that some of you are members of FIF, so we are working with 14 national association, but we also cover with the list of companies that you see there, the whole range of industrial companies involved in rail. And what is also important for you to know is that 1/3 of UNIFE members are SMEs. So for us, it's very important. We have a very active SMEs group. If we go to the next slide. So, in fact, you have to know, first of all, that in a month from now, France would take over the rotating presidency of the EU for 6 months. It would be a bit complicated because there will be the elections in the middle of this, but still it's also one thing which is important, which means that France will have to push some topics which are important for the industry. And secondly, you have to know that in the past year, during the year, let's say 2021, there were a lot of discussions between the member states and European Commission for the national recovery plans, and you see that a lot of money is available. And what is also very important for you to know, that you have 55 billions approximately of identified rail investment, including urban rail transport. There will be 6 for France. What was quite impressive, I say that to our Italian colleagues, is that out of the 55 billions of euros, there will be 29 billion of euros for Italy. So you imagine Italy will transform all its rail system with such a big amount of money. But still, there will be a lot of money available. So you have to be informed on what's going on in all your member states, and especially in France, because the money is there, and the money has to be spent from now until 2026. I mean that the tendering process must be quite quick if you want to spend the money before 2026. If we go to the next slide, then you have some examples of money which will be allocated in the National Recovery Plan: 29 for Italy, France 5, Romania 4, Spain 6, so that makes quite a lot of money. And if you want to have the information, of course, this is available in Brussels. You can have the examples. All the member states have created a kind of task force for this new budget coming from the recovery plan. So that will be very important, and that will be very important for all our projects, because a big part of the money will be about infrastructure. We were a bit disappointed because there will not be a lot of money out of the 55 for rolling stock, for the modernization of rolling stock, but still on infrastructure, deployment of the RTMS, there will be a lot of money, and that is certainly a very good thing if we want to modernize our rail sector. Now, if we go to the next slide, what is also important that is, in addition to the money which will come to the National Recovery Plan, there will be also money going to the member states, what we call the structural fund. Of course, countries like France cannot have a lot of money coming from the structural funds, because the bit of money is going to the départements d'outre-mer and some regions still on structural funds, but you see that money is there and has to be sent as well, and could be also used in some cases for RTMS deployment and also for the hydrogen trains. If we go to the next slide, this is also one of the most important things which are already mentioned by a few minutes ago by the people from the Commission who took the floor, is that the European Green Deal has been launched by Madame van der Leyen when she was elected President of the Commission. It was more or less 2 years ago, and for her the hallmark of her policy was about the Green Deal. So we are quite happy, because for the rail sector, of course, as we are only emitting 0.5 CO2 emissions in comparison to the rest of the sector, who is emitting the transport sector is emitting around 25%. So we have a really a good image, and we have to continue our efforts, but still we are in a good position. If you go to the next slide, you have to know that the Commission is putting a lot of pressure on the member states. By 2030, they want a reduction of GHG emissions by 55%, 40% share of energy for renewable resources, and up to 41% reduction of final energy consumption. That means that the effort that we will have all, that will be extremely challenging for us, but still this is a good pressure coming from the Commission. Now, if you go to the next slide, you heard that the Commission has been also discussing about what they call Fit for 55, which shows that these efforts should be made first by the reduction of GHG emission in 2030 by 55, and the objective, you know, is to have a complete climate neutrality system by 2050, which will be also very challenging, but it is a lot of pressure, and it is very good for our sector. If you go now to the next slide, please. You heard about the fourth railway package, which has been put into force already 2 years ago. This is simplification. It was supposed to be a simplification of the system of authorization for the applicants who wants to put are building a new trains, which would be operable in several countries, if we talk about the rail supply industry. But it is true that for the time being, to tell you the truth, we are a bit disappointed, because the implementation of the fourth railway package is going not very quickly, and we thought at the very beginning that there will be a reduction of cost and time, and we don't see really good examples. And there's been also a very big increase of the fees and charges. So for the time being, of course, we are happy because it simplifies the authorization process, but this fourth railway package still need to be tackled in a different way. So on our side, and the industry still consider that a lot of things have to be done if we want to have this reduction of 20% in time and cost of vehicle authorization. Now, if you go to the next slide, you will see that all the new regime is now implemented in all Europe, which means that once you give another authorization to a train, he will be able to cross the border. So things have been improving, and maybe later on Libor Lockman, who was in charge of this Connecting Europe Express train, which has been mentioned, could explain a bit what he saw, his experience of what happened with this train, went from Portugal to the Baltic states and then to the Balkans and came back to Paris because the train arrived in Paris at the very last stop of its journey. Now, if we go to the next slide, you know, it has been mentioned by the Commission that there will be the TSI's revision on the 2022 package. This is also extremely challenging because you review the whole system, and of course the Commission, together with the member states and the industry and the operators, the infrastructure managers, and ourselves are working on this revision. Of course, on our side, we do consider that there are too many revisions, and we would hope that once this revision will be finalized in 2022, because it's about all the TSI, we'll have a bit of time to breathe and to say that the next revision will be in 2027, except maybe for DAC and FRMCS. But for the rest, I think we really need to have a stability, a regulatory stability, because it is quite complicated, especially for the rail supply industry, to follow all these new regulations, and it has quite a heavy cost. We go to now research and innovation. I think we already had a big presentation. Of course, for the industry, investing in innovation, research innovation, is absolutely essential. And you see that 3.6 of our annual turnover is invested in research and innovation. And you have the mention of high-speed train, ERTMS, automated train metro systems, but we can say that we were really very happy when in 2014 Shift to Rail was adopted by the Council, because, as I said, it was a good way to put all the people involved in the rail sector to work together. And if you go to the next slide, I think there are lessons learned of the Shift to Rail. It's a first public-private partnership. You have to know that these partnerships are co-financed by the industry, who put 50% of the money, and 50% of the money is coming from the EU. But the SMEs are not investing. The SMEs get full interest, and it's co-financed by the industry and the EU. Secondly, I think there was a critical mass. The technical feasibility was proven at higher TRL, and I think there was also a lot of discussions on strategic approach on the future of Shift Rail. And when we were preparing Europe's rail joint undertaking, we saw that there were already a lot of topics which were already put in the table, which we are going to continue. But still, it was very interesting to have this extremely good experience of Shift to Rail, and we are happy that Europe's rail has been adopted. If we go to the next slide now, I think it's been mentioned a few minutes ago about the innovation pillar and the system pillar. This is a new idea which came from the Commission. We have to be sure that everything will be done in a correct manner between the industry and the Commission on the system pillar, because the Commission thought that it was absolutely essential to define European rail system architecture. So now there are working groups who started working on this topic, and it's also important to see what will be delivered and maintained on the CCS standards and migration roadmap, and also to work on the TSI and a standardization plan. I think we had a presentation a few minutes ago on this. So the impact expected of Europe's rail, at least for the rail supply industry, is more flexibility and punctuality for passenger freight, improved performance and capacity, reduced cost, harmonized approach to evolution, and greater adaptability. And of course, for us, the most important thing is to be sure that we continue to have a lot of pressure on the competitiveness of the EU rail supply industry with the support of the member states. If we go to the slide, so we will not go into detail because it has already mentioned, but still the working groups are going to start working on this. But what will be certainly very important in Europe's rail is the ATO, automatic train operation, FRMCS, but our friend Jean-Michel will talk on this, and asset managers and DAC, the digital automatic coupler, who could be a kind of game changer for the freight sector, which, as you know, is unfortunately having a lot of problems in a lot of countries like France, even if there is now political ambitions for freight, but still we are very far from where we should be on freight. And if we want to double the freight by 2030, I think we have to start working on this and spend a lot of money to support this sector. So for us, of course, we need to be sure that we'll increase the rail market share and increase, as I say. What is also important is what we put at the very end of this slide, and I'm sure that the clusters are working on this, is the how to attract new talents and the skills. That is, there's a shortage all over Europe. There's a program which has been launched by the Commission called Staffers, where the industry is working together with the operators on skills. And the skills is really, really, really essential if you want to have people working on this. And when you see how much money will be spent on rail in the next 10 years with the National Recovery Plan, with structural funds, with Connecting Earth Facility, plus the member states, you really need to find the right people, the right engineers, and that is also very important. And I think that FIF is working on this. Now, I think that's what I wanted to say. The next slide, I think that's all. So I think it was maybe interesting for you to know what's happening in Brussels and what we are doing at our level. And of course, we are at your disposal to help you. And of course, if you want to come to Unife, you are welcome. And thank you very much. I just want to apologize because I have something important to do now. I will be there in the afternoon, so I will not be with you for the round table. I'm really sorry about this, but I will come back later on. But I'm here, and you have my email, and you can ask me any questions. So thank you again for being here, and have a nice debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.